and the hardest thing for them was the children coming was getting there. The Wilson, Sheraton, and Lawrence stops have no ADA compliance. It's one of my top priorities. Making this a stop for everyone.
I definitely support enhanced renovation with all possible means, including unallocated TIF fund, greenhouse gases, et cetera, et cetera. Public transportation is one way to really deal with that, but we have to work with the CTA so that public transportation is both more accessible and more user-friendly. I think if we do that, then have Wilson, which is in the center of this area.
No, Watney. The CTA Wilson L-Stop has been voted the worst in the city, and I think we all probably agree with that. It's not something that can be fixed quickly, so I think we need a short-term plan and a long-term plan. The short-term plan, right now there's about $3 million set aside for some minor renovations in the existing building. And I've talked to the Uptown Chamber, and they are trying to promote an open-air market in there that would be not high-end, but middle-end to service the neighborhood as well as Truman College. I would fully support that. But in long term, I think we need to work with the federal government and other agencies to really get the money here to put into the Wilson L-Stop. And I've been always a big promoter of moving the L-Stop closer to Montrose, and I'll tell you why. We have a L-Stop at Sheridan and Irving, which is 4,000 north. Right now we go up to 4,600 north at Wilson, and then we go to 4,800 at Lawrence. I would like to see the Wilson L-Stop move closer to Montrose and keep the Lawrence L-Stop open. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Molly Phelan. To answer the questions in order of presentation. First off, it's absolutely critical that we bring the 3 L-stops that we have in our neighborhood ADA compliant. We have a large population of elderly, we have a large population of disabled people, and it's kind of ridiculous that they haven't been updated yet. Yes, I would use TIF funds because in TIF funds towards increasing public transportation to our community will increase foot traffic, will increase business, so absolutely. Although I have to disagree in terms of moving the Wilson L-Stop to Montrose. We have a commercial district on Wilson that is desperate right now. There are a lot of vacancies there. The entrance to Truman is there, and I think it would be detrimental for the success of the businesses and the retailers on that strip if it was moved. I had also talked to the Uptown Chamber. I think there are some good possibilities for a open-air market. Again, some of my other plans that I presented to the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce when I received their endorsement, they are also in favor of strategic marketing plans, which is something that I've been doing in my past business development life. Creating strategic marketing plans to allow for exactly what was done with the Apple train station at Clybourne and North and Clybourne. We need to look at opportunities not just for Wilson, but talking to the Cubs about Sheridan, talking to Target about Wilson, and talking to Jam Productions and other music industries that should take responsibility for Lawrence. If we can modernize this, we can help get foot traffic back up, and we can also make our neighborhood safer by increasing the foot traffic on the street. Thank you.
Before I get to the question, we had a minute to introduce ourselves, and some of you just came in or a while ago. Please check my literature and my flyers on your way out. My volunteers are out to hand it to you. My name is Bafika Duretta. Don't worry about my first name. Hopefully in 24 days you may call me Alderman Retta. How's that sound? Thank you. Let me go to the question here. T for Wilson L Station? The answer is yes. Last week, I went to the CTS meetings. They had meetings in different sites, and I had to be saying hi. And I had a specific question for them. My question is, what are you going to do with Wilson L Station? It's in dire repair. It looks bad. It gives an element for bad to hang around. We need your help. AD accessibility also an issue. Guess what their answer was? well, we do have a visionary plan. We love it. We all like to be visionaries. But right now, what do you have for us? I couldn't get any good answer. They talked about TIF money. I said, if I become alderman, I will support you transparently. And the other funding they have been talking. Greg Harris, Hazel Stein. Those are our representatives who can go and talk to the Springfield to give us more funding. The funding is not the issue here, it's the commitment. I even said to city CEOs that were there, can you bring your office down here in Wilson? Make us this area safe and make us happy for us livable. I commute every day to downtown to work back and forth. We need that to be done. About the entrance on Target, I can't tell you. I'm not an engineer. I'll hopefully, if I become alderman, I'll use Andy's advice, the committee, and then we'll happen to have it. Thank you.
Diane Shapiro, I'm number 56 on the ballot. Here's a problem. Let's do the math. I'm 54 years old. I was riding the CTA afraid to get off at the Wilson L stop when I used to ride to the Art Institute when I was 10 years old. Where have the people been? The CTA administration is way too top-heavy with people that are collecting majorly huge salaries, absolutely undeserved. They need to have from the top removed. We need to use the money that is used to pay their salaries used for the CTA trains. Yes, it's about time, but where has the establishment been for the last 25 years under Ms. Schiller? This is an embarrassment. People are afraid to get off. We need a strong economic corridor. Until we can do something about the parking meters, and about the high taxes, and about utilities, and about safety and crime, we are not going to bring one business here. We need an entirely new model. And very simply, I think Target should assist in some way. But we need a development corridor like they have in Washington, D.C. for any of you that may have ridden the metro. Everywhere you go, there's a business. In Europe, when you ride the trains, there's a business, there's a theater, there's a show. It's time. Thank you.
Well, the answer to the first question is yes. I absolutely support using TIF funds to improve the Wilson L station. It's something that's absolutely necessary, and I think it's something that's going to be in our long-term future. Truman College is expanding. It's one of the reasons I don't want to see the L station move to Montrose, and I think we can hope to see a lot of business development come along with that expansion and an improved Wilson L stop. Thank you.
Hey.
Oh, sorry, Emily Stewart. Endorsed by the Sun-Times yesterday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, candidates, and now we'll switch topics again. This next topic is TIF. TIF stands for Tax Increment Financing, allocating specific pools of taxpayer money for improvements within set boundaries. It has come under significant scrutiny because of the potential for sweetheart deals and siphoning tax revenue away from schools and needed improvements elsewhere. So there are two questions. One, do you support TIF process reform? And two, how would you reform the current TIF process and what areas would you reform? The first speaker on this topic will be Mark Kaplan.
Hi, I'm Mark Kaplan, in case you didn't hear Greg. Do I support TIF process reform? Absolutely. I think that the TIF program has been one of the most abused programs in the city and in the state, in fact. What I support is having total transparency so people know where their tax dollars are going. I also support having a TIF accountability board in districts where there are TIFs so we can see that money through the process. In addition, I support an ordinance like a Sweet Home Chicago ordinance that says that 20% of all the TIF funds that are now sitting downtown in the slush fund should be used to preserve and develop housing that's affordable to people that make 50% of the median income of the community or less. Secondly, I propose that all the TIF dollars that have been taken from the public schools go back to the public schools, and that in any TIF, the school funding is protected, so that in any TIF, there would be no further money taken from the public schools. Thirdly, I think there has to be, TIF really needs to be used for what its intention is. It should be used to develop blighted areas, both in terms of the affordability of housing and economic generation, and it should be used to conserve areas, so that if not for the TIF, it would not happen. It should not be used as a giveaway to developers that are politically connected or to fund some politician's favorite project. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Andy Lam, L-A-M. To answer this question, I don't think I can exactly answer this question because I am against TIF. In my website from day one, I'm against TIF. I don't believe small business owner, property owners, condos owner need to subsidize multi-million-dollar property developers, contractors, huge construction company. I think that's wrong. If they want to come to the 46th ward, they need to come up with their own money. The original idea of TIF, you can research TIF on your own, was a wonderful idea. But as Mr. Harris said, it has been abused big time. There's too many sweetheart deals. I think a true reform is not possible or is not realistic. I mean, you know, we're talking about city politics. It's not likely to get real reform. So I think we kind of waste our time to talk about reform. So I'm against TIF. Instead, I think what we could do is to lower the city permit fees, the taxes on property owners. That way we can attract more people coming to the 46th ward. I think that is a more sustainable business model rather than, you know, hitting people with tax fees, permits, licensing fee, all that. Thank you very much.
Caitlin McIntyre again. I think it's very optimistic to suggest that we get rid of TIFs and have, you know, businesses just come into the ward on our own. But realistically, I've lived here for 20 years and we've seen that very little of that has happened outside the TIF process. We have our Target at Wilson Yard to thank for the process. That said, it has some huge problems with transparency and accountability. I mean, these are your tax dollars and you don't know how they're being spent. You don't know if, you know, they're going into a developer's pocket, and the entire system is, you know, created to reward the developer. It's not created to, you know, put the money back in your pocket or put the money back in your schools. I'm in support of accountability and a lot of reform when it comes to the TIF process. I think we need to have shorter TIF lifespans so that when money is not spent on a project, it goes back into our community, back into, you know, developing our streets and our schools. And I personally have taken, you know, funded my own campaign entirely. And I think that in that way, I can assure you that I have no interest in any particular, you know, part of the community or in, you know, anyone getting a TIF. And so I think that that is important as well. And I encourage all candidates to, you know, open up and show everyone, you know, where their money is coming from in their campaigns, so that, you know, we really can make this process a transparent one and help use it to stimulate our community. Thank you.
Don Nowotny. And currently we have about 4 TIFs in the ward. Wilson Yard TIF, which is the largest. The Entertainment TIF, which is right behind me at Broadway and Lawrence. And then the Clark Street up around Lawrence. And then the new one that was just passed, the Maryville TIF, Montrose and Clarendon. I do support the reform. I do support getting the community involved in how we use this money for the redevelopment of the community. But right now, in the critical financial situation that the city and state's in, I am a big supporter of taking some of the TIF money and putting it back into where it came out of. And 53% of that would go back to education, 20% would go to city services, and the rest would go back to other taxing bases. That would take, I think, Springfield to make that happen. But I believe that we need to reform TIFs. I believe TIFs are a good venue for redevelopment, but we need to keep it open and the community involved in this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Again,